Hello again and welcome to my new video. So in this little DIY series, we want to try to imitate the look of anamorphic lenses. Here we go! Hello, Lucas again here. In this new video we want to talk about imitating the look of anamorphic lenses. As mentioned before, this is the first video of a two-part tutorial DIY. And in this part we want to talk a bit about the flares. So what I have here is an anamorphic projection lens for projectors to convert a 4:3 image into a real CinemaScope 1. This is pretty old, I think it's 60 years old. So, and as you can see here in the glass, it's a bit curved. And therefore we get really nice lens flares from this lenses. Actually, we cannot imitate this look. There are ways to get this with very expensive filters, but today we want to actually get a bit near against at least some light streaks. What we need for this really fast and pretty easy conversion is nothing more but a common UV filter and some fine sandingpaper. So when you get the UV filter, you want to look after the quality of the UV filter, because from really cheap UV filters like this one, you can get pretty nasty reflections, especially at night when all the traffic lights and car lights are out. With a more expensive filter like this one, from the Lumimix line from Panasonic, you can reduce this effect but not totally eliminate it. I think when you get a really expensive reflector, this might be even less, but don't expect too much. So this is a downside, but we can live with that. So the very basic idea is that we make very tiny scratches in this UV or Skylight filter with a very fine-grained sandingpaper, just so we can get some pretty nice streaks out of these little scratches. The quality of the lens you have on will reduce somehow. You might get some softer images, but the effect is pretty cool and maybe you can need it sometime. I'm sure you want to see some examples, so basically what we're doing now is the difference between this and this. So I think this is pretty cool, and as it's pretty cheap, it's worth a try. So let's get started. So at first, we have to screw on the filter on our lens where we want to use this technique with. And then we have to look where the upside of the lens is. This is here on this lens. And then we have to make a marking on the actual filter. I'm using this pen for this, so on this way we know where to make the directions of the streaks on our filter. Next step, we have to prepare the sandingpaper. This is a very fine 600 grit sandingpaper, and I just will cut out a notch of this. And now we are ready to start. Now that we have our sandingpaper and the filter, we need to make the scratches from the marking simply down, so that the scratches are vertically with the lens. What we are doing is that we just lie the lens down here and we use the sandingpaper and just make some very soft scratches just from the upside down. So, and basically we're done. So if you want to have a stronger effect, you can use a different sandingpaper, for example 320 or 400, but for me this will work. So this is the effect we just created. You can see the light streaks from the light source itself and also from the reflections of the Gorilla Pod in the background. Of course, you could always rotate the filter just to get a different look, which is also pretty interesting and nice to have in your camera bag. This works for, of course, any light source around and everything that reflects light. So you can always make an interesting look. So I think we're done here. I think this is a pretty easy but pretty cool mod. It's, of course, I know it's not nearly anything like the real thing with an anamorphic lens, but it's much cheaper, and for trying out it's a cool effect, and I think it's cool that you can make it directly in camera without adding any post effects. So in the next step of the series we want to talk about the bokeh, so stay tuned, please subscribe and see you next time.